Mrs. Heather Webb, the top 5 to 10 things you do that are non-negotiable to prevent dementia. That is a fantastic place to start. And let's keep things, I'll do my best to distill my top 5, because if I tried to list off 10, we'd probably be here all day. My top 5 things. Well, first, I think it's really important to protect your head, protect your noggin, which is maybe not what you expected me to say first, but I think it's really important to avoid head injury, especially as somebody who carries one of the more well-defined, one of the most well-defined risk gene for Alzheimer's disease, the ApoE4 allele. I carry one copy. It's really important to protect your head, make sure that you're not sustaining any, head injuries. And if you have in the past, to, make sure that you are being treated, appropriately for that injury. But I, personally, just to show you how this has become literally a non-negotiable for me, I was in 2020, I took up boxing. And I was regularly seeing a boxing trainer, a personal boxing trainer, and I was getting really good. I was really enjoying it. It was the first time I'd ever been engaged intellectually in a martial art, and I was doing it a couple of times a week until one training session we decided to practice sparring. And my mind just wandered, and I got hit in the head. And it wasn't even that hard, but I thought to myself, okay, I'm not trying to be a professional boxer by any means. And this is just too risky of a sport for me to try to play, especially given my familial history and my genetic background. So I decided to stop boxing. I mean, I guess I could have kept it up in a more casual, and continued in a more casual way, but yeah, it just kind of too risky. So now I kind of primarily have defaulted to what has always existed for me as a form of exercise, which is, walking, weight training, heavy resistance training, and the like. So that's number 1, protect your head. Number 2, I would say regularly exercising. The evidence is so strongly now in favor of exercise as a way of helping to shield the body against cognitive decline and dementia, with the asterisk being that there is no silver bullet, and you can still do everything quote unquote right and still unfortunately one day be diagnosed. We don't have all the answers. That's what we're working towards, but I do exercise most days. I think my resistance training regimen I've got dialed down to 4 to 5 days a week. On days that I'm not resistance training, I just try to move and do something that I really enjoy outside of the gym. But yeah, doing what I can to promote the health of my skeletal muscle and strength. Size and strength both matter. They're both correlated, but independent variables. And so I try to train for both. And that's because having a robust amount of skeletal muscle, which becomes increasingly difficult to maintain as we get older, it's really important for helping to fight off obesity, helping to fight off even overweight, helping to fight off insulin resistance, which might one day lead to type 2 diabetes. Not that I'm at risk for that, but it's just a great way to kind of nurture all of the many processes in the body that directly reward the brain: insulin sensitivity, healthy glucose levels, healthy blood pressure. All super important stuff. And then, of course, there are the mental benefits of exercise. It's the capacity of exercise to fight off depression, I think, is crucially important. And depression in midlife is a modifiable risk factor for dementia. So that's really important as well. So that would be a non-negotiable for me. I would say number 3 is eating a nutrient-dense diet. I try to major in the majors as best I can. You guys know, I mean, if you're a regular listener of the show, you know that I'm not an absolutist. I don't eat zero ultra-processed foods. I certainly enjoy my share of ultra-processed foods. They just make up a small percentage of my diet. When I'm on a cutting phase, when I'm trying to lose body fat, I even enjoy diet sodas here and there, even though I'm not, the biggest fan of artificial sweeteners. I try to default to sodas now on the market that are artificial sweetener free. There are plenty that exist. There's Nixie, there's Zevia, no affiliation. But beyond that, beyond sticking to mainly whole foods, which I think is the biggest lever, As we, get a little bit more granular, I try to prioritize protein. Circling back to point 2, prioritizing protein is a great way to support the health of your skeletal muscle, which is super important. It's really important for brain health. There are dozens of correlational studies now linking greater muscle strength to reduced all-cause mortality, better metabolic health, better cardiovascular health, better brain health. And eating dietary protein directly supports that, which indirectly is going to support the brain. And then on top of that, prioritizing protein, especially in the context of a food environment that is 73% ultra-processed foods, prioritizing protein is a great way to assuage hunger. It's a great way to nip hunger in the bud, to get ahead of hunger, because we all today have felt and experienced food noise, right? Because of our ever-present proximity to ultra-processed, super tasty, highly palatable, aggressively marketed food-like products. And so by prioritizing protein, it kind of tunes out some of that food noise. It makes you less prone to thinking about food. And it is the most satiating macronutrient. So that's another huge lever for me in terms of my diet. And when you focus on those two things, prioritizing whole foods and prioritizing protein, it kind of makes a lot of the other noise, the debates that you tend to see now on social media, kind of fade into the background. We'll take the whole seed oil debate, right? The seed oil debate becomes irrelevant when you're prioritizing whole foods, when you're prioritizing protein, right? There's no quote unquote seed oils in steak. There are no seed oils in eggs, in egg yolks. There are no seed oils in whole foods. Again, we want to major in the majors. We don't want to get consumed by the minutia, which unfortunately is what tends to make the most noise on social media. So those are kind of the big dietary variables for me. And then, of course, I prioritize whole food sources of carbohydrates. I think carbs are great. Potatoes are very satiating. So I eat a lot of potatoes. I eat a lot of rice. I eat a lot of, what else do I eat? Yeah, veggies, root vegetables, tubers, carrots. Dark leafy greens are incredible for brain health. So I would say that those are kind of a non-negotiable when it comes to brain health. So from a dietary standpoint, yeah, those are the big levers. Number 4, man, what would number 4 be? I think sleep. So sleep is crucial. There was a new paper that came out actually last week that found evidence of a working glymphatic system in the human brain. So the glymphatic system actually was initially discovered, I believe, in mammalian models, not humans. But we now have solid evidence to show that when we sleep, the brain actually cleans itself of these proteins that can aggregate and become insoluble plaques that characterize Alzheimer's disease. And these processes, this cleansing process, isn't exclusive to sleep. It happens over the course of the day as well, but it's accelerated during sleep. And that's why getting, 6 to 8 hours or 9 hours of sleep per night is really important. And making sure not just sleep duration is dialed in, but your sleep quality. The glymphatic system is really important when it comes to keeping the brain cleansed of these proteins that then get flushed into cerebrospinal fluid and then get drained ultimately to blood for processing, for excretion. But that's why sleep is really important. And there's also I was reading this paper. I didn't do too rigorous a read of it, but I kind of read the introduction, the discussion. It's also very interesting that the paper pointed out that cardiovascular health helps to exercise, helps to facilitate the glymphatic process, the cleansing, house cleaning process in the brain. So circling back to exercise, another mechanism by which exercise benefits the brain directly, it helps facilitate the functioning, the optimal functioning of the glymphatic system, which is so important. So sleep is great. I try to prioritize sleep. I try to get to bed at a consistent time every night. I don't always succeed. But I take magnesium, which helps with that. I take, sometimes I'll take glycine before bed. 3 grams of glycine has been shown in humans to help boost certain markers of sleep quality. And I just try to keep my bedroom dark and cool, and I try not to work from bed. I don't have a TV in my bedroom. I try to just keep my bedroom, for sleep and for getting dressed and, stuff like that. And, other, adult activities, but non-work related. It's so no work, nothing tedious. I try to keep the bed. Sydney's off camera laughing at me. I'm trying to be as politically correct as possible. Yeah, so the bed should be for sleep and sex. I'm just going to say it. There it is, yeah. You're not 14, right? Can't beat around the bush. So yes, that. And then what would 5 be? Let me think about this. We covered sleep. I took some notes, so let me scroll through and see what I had jotted down for myself. Yeah, I guess I would have to say staying socially connected. Very important for brain health. So that would be another non-negotiable. I do my best to have as many social interactions, in-person IRL social interactions over the course of the day as I can, which is not always easy. I work at home, so I don't always have an excuse or a reason to leave the house, but I try to come up with reasons to leave the house, which is a struggle in and of itself, right? But I try to, I'll go to the grocery store often for 1 or 2 ingredients, just so that I have these even if it's a micro interaction with the cashier, valuable. There's value there. And I go to the gym, as often as I can. I try, even though it's just as comfortable and easy for me to make coffee at home, sometimes I'll just go out with the express intent of getting a coffee out to interact with a barista. It just kind of keeps the social machinery lubricated and all beneficial. We've done enough episodes on the show. You can, we have a back catalog. Highly recommend checking out an interview that we did recently with a neuroscientist by the name of Ben Rain, who is, he's a neuroscientist, and he wrote a book recently on how loneliness is actually a pro-inflammatory phenomena, whereby, it's a stressor. It can raise levels of cortisol. And if you're chronically lonely, it's not something that you want to, it's something that you want to, find a solution for. And highly recommend checking out that episode of the show. Again, he's a neuroscientist, so he makes the connection directly from, loneliness all the way over to long-term brain health. And it's crucially important. So, so again, it's the big levers. No magic pill, no magic blueberry, no magic supplement. It's the big levers and trying to do ultimately the best that you can. So I hope that answers that question. Hey, if you liked that video, you need to check out this one here, and I'll see you there.